And welcome to Kitty Talks. We share inspirational life stories that empower you to create yours. And today I have with me the money oracle, Snowe Saxman. Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, Snowe, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited about the conversation we are about to have. Snowe is a financial guru. She helps women step into their financial destiny by creating income and impact. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm really pleased we've been trying to kind of have this conversation for a while, but for people listening, this lady is an incredible woman who's completely transformed her life. And I know she's going to tell you a bit more about it, but can you tell the guys what you're up to at the moment, what you do in the world?
Yeah, sure. So like you said, I am the money oracle. And the biggest thing that I help people do is monetize their money problems, whether they want to learn how to create more money or they want to learn how to clean up their financial mess. I am a financial guru, like you said. And so I do a lot of cleaning up financial messes. There are a lot of messes out there. And then I'm also well known as an expert tax strategist. So I help people monetize their taxes by learning how to beat the tax agencies legally. And so I help people, wherever it comes to money, that's what I do. I love helping people with their money problems. And I love helping people step into, like you said, their financial destiny so they can create the income and the impact they were destined to have. I'm also a wife. I'm a mother of 7. I'm a glam-ma. Oh, yes, 7. Yes, and I'm a glam-ma. I'm someone way too young and gorgeous to be called grandma.
You were saying you shared your bed with your son and your
woke up. I was in between 2 4-year-olds last night.
Oh my goodness! Did you get any sleep whatsoever?
I did. They're actually pretty good. It was actually kind of fun to have 2 4-year-olds around you.
And what's amazing about you, Snowe, is obviously you help people now transform their money story, but you have completely transformed your money story. Like, at what age did you go bankrupt?
It was I was a millionaire by 25, and then by 35, we were bankrupt and living on food stamps.
Wow! So complete kind of turnaround.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. So yeah, I have completely transformed my money story. I wrote about it all in my Amazon best-selling book, Bankrupt to 6 Figures. And as you know, it's really an emotional, spiritual, and financial transformation. You really have to grow yourself and do that personal development and spiritual development, and then you see the finances grow. And so that was my story of being completely bankrupt, emotionally, spiritually, as well as financially, and then my journey of transformation back. So it is definitely been a journey, and I love sharing and teaching from that journey now so others can do the same.
And do you mind telling us a bit more about it? Because obviously you and I have something in common. We've both had like problems with drugs and alcohol back in our 20s. Can you tell us a little bit more about the journey?
Yeah, of course. So the first memories I ever have are about being sexually abused by a male family member, and that went on from the time I was a toddler until I was a teenager. Most girls who get sexually abused at a young age, they go one of two ways. They either become extremely promiscuous or they completely shut down. So I completely shut down all through high school. When I got to college, I married the first guy that paid attention to me. So in college, I got married, had a baby, and then the marriage was extremely abusive. I thought that, this was a guy that loved me, but of course, he was just a predator looking for someone who he can control. And because of my traumatic past, I was just, a sitting target basically for, a predator. And so through college, we were only married for 18 months, and it was, some of the worst times of my life. By the time the last year of my college came, he left me for another woman took everything basically except for diaper bag. I had $20 in my pocket. He took the only credit card we had and racked it all up in that night, so I couldn't have any money. So I moved back home with my parents, with my daughter, and I finished my degree in accounting. And then when I graduated college, I was like, I need to get out of here. I was living in Virginia. And so I moved to Orlando, Florida with my 2-year-old daughter. And I got my first job as an entry-level accountant at Disney World. And my daughter went to preschool in Disney property. So it was like I had landed, this dream, the American dream. Like,
yeah, of course.
I got this great job that had great potential. I'm literally going to the happiest place on earth every single day for my job. But within a few months, I realized that working for someone else was not for me. I mean, I just was suffocating. I hated being told what to do and when, and I wanted to control my time and my money. So I quit after 9 months. I went back to graduate school and started my first business, doing small business consulting, financial consulting, tax consulting.
And have you always loved money? Is finance and numbers just something that comes? Because that sounds like my worst nightmare. Having
I know. And when I was younger, I always wanted to play Monopoly in hotels. Like I played banker when I was younger. I had like this little box, and I wrote checks and did loans to people. I don't even know how I knew about that, because my dad was an architect engineer, so he was like the farthest thing, from from a banker or money. And so, yeah, I was always trying to play Monopoly and hotels, which is, I don't know if you ever heard that, but it's kind of like Monopoly. Yeah. So yeah, those are the things I liked. And I was really, really good at math. And I'm actually, it's amazing how God works everything out, because I'm a huge creative too. And I remember years ago, someone telling me, like, you're so unique because I've never seen a person so good at math that's also creative, because, it's like opposite sides of the brain. But now I get it, because most people aren't good with math, and most women don't like money. They're afraid of money. Self-esteem is tied to money. 97% of women have low self-esteem. And so all of this affects money. And so now it makes sense, because, my passion is, to help women. That is like, the core passion there. But I'm really good at money, and every woman needs, help with money. And so and now it makes sense, like sometimes.
Yeah. When you look back at it now, you can see the kind of pattern and everything. Yeah.
Sometimes we feel like we're weird, and it's really, we're unique, and we have a unique set of gifting to do what we're purposed to do. So,
and I think that's the tricky thing though, because, when something comes so naturally to us, we don't see it as a gift, because it's just so natural to us. So like you said, you just thought everybody was like that.
Yeah. And so many other gifts I have like that too. And that's one of the things I teach people now when I'm helping them learn how to create more money. The thing that comes naturally and easy to you is what other people will pay you for. Like that's why they're paying you. Sometimes, especially women, have a hard time. Well, that comes easy to me. So I don't want to charge a lot of money. No. And it's not about charging a lot of money. It's about charging what the service is worth, the value of it. And what comes easy to you is what most likely someone will pay you to help them with, because they're struggling with it, like the money, right? And taxes. People struggle with money. They struggle with taxes. That stuff comes easy to me, So, but that is how it's also a really good indicator of where to start looking for that, thing to turn into an income, like that talent, that passion, that, whatever you like or skill. If it comes really easy to you, it's a good place to start looking, for ways to create money. So
absolutely. So you left Disneyland.
Yes. So my current husband was one of my first clients. So he was one of my first clients in my first business. And through a bad investment, we ended up falling into construction and real estate. And so we just fell into this construction and real estate company that we invested in. And by the time I was 25, I was a millionaire. My husband, we really complement each other with our gifts. And so literally, like, where he is, weak, I'm strong, and vice versa. So we were able to build this multi-million-dollar construction real estate company. And I was doing what I wanted. I was the chief financial officer, which is what I said I wanted to do when I graduated college. I wanted to, run a company from the financial side. So I was doing all the legal stuff, all the tax stuff, all the financial stuff for, our multi-million-dollar company. But there was something missing, and I hadn't dealt with my extreme traumatic past. And so we had a lot of money. I was 25. I didn't know, anyone that was really my age that had that kind of money. And my husband and I were always very hospitable. We loved to entertain. We loved to have people over. And so that kind of desire and somehow turned into this what I call the rock star lifestyle. Drugs, partying for days on end. So between Orlando and Miami, we were involved in all kinds of, underground stuff, strip clubs. I mean, you name it. And I mean, when I say I used drugs, I was addicted to drugs. It wasn't just we partied a little bit and I did it. There were a few years where literally it was on me 24 hours a day. Literally I would have it everywhere that I went. Now I was, people didn't really know. I mean, unless you were really intuitive, but we were somewhat normal, we had a business, we had, We had a nanny that took care of our children, so that we would have more time to party, and when we weren't sleeping, there was someone taking care of the kids. So we seemed somewhat normal. We kept our house up. We didn't do some of the things that a lot of addicts do, but I was an addict, totally an addict.
I can relate.
Yeah. I mean, I hadn't dealt with any of that stuff. And then I was going through PTSD, which of course made it worse. So drugs on top of post-traumatic stress. I mean, literally, it got really bad. It got to the point where when I was 29 years old, I attempted to take my own life. I got Baker acted, which here in Florida in the United States, Baker acted means that they force you into when you attempt to kill yourself. And so, yeah, so I was there for 3 days, and it was like the first time that I ever actually admitted that the sexual abuse happened. A few people knew about it, but that was it. And
so had you been burying that memory then and using basically the drugs and alcohol and the party lifestyle just to distract yourself from the underlying kind of feeling that you just didn't want to go to, basically?
Exactly. And I really didn't understand a lot of it because for me, it started happening so young. I grew up with it. It's almost like your name. Like, I mean, my very first memory is of my grandfather, but then the other memories after that are of, sexual abuse. So, when you're that young, your brain doesn't fully develop until you're 25 anyways. But, I literally grew up with this happening. And so, that also, does a number on you too. And I found out in my journey, years later, actually, it's only been 2 or 3 years since I even found this out, that I technically was clinically disassociated. I didn't even know that for many, many years. My brain had disconnected because there was because it was such an extended period of trauma. I remember going through PTSD, and then I remember like different mentors and teachers and even friends being like, Snow, you need to get out of your head. You need to get out of your head. And I could never figure out what they were saying. I'm like, I don't understand what you're saying. And the first coach that I ever worked with, when I began, replacing these limiting beliefs, really coming out of my story, she said that I was like a hard nut to crack. That was her words. And she kept trying to get me to get into my heart, and I couldn't. Yeah. And that's because I was completely disassociated.
And I would imagine you just completely shut yourself off from your feelings and your emotions to survive.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what a disassociated state is. Like the brain literally disconnects from the mind and the spirit. The mind, the spirit, and the body completely disconnect. So I can no longer feel the pain in your body. And so I can no longer feel the pain of the emotion. So literally you're just your brain, like literally no emotion, no spirit, no sensation to the body. Like I had to walk through a whole process of learning how to even feel my body. I mean, it's the craziest thing sometimes.
Yeah, no, I can totally relate because mine was the similar, that journey to the heart, my emotions for me were weak. I didn't, why would you cry? It was a similar,
right.
And I'm sure so many people listening, have the same thing, where we disassociate from life or we've had an experience happen to us, we tend to shut down.
Yeah, exactly. And you probably don't realize it because I didn't realize it. Like I said, I mean, I literally had no idea. It wasn't until years later. So my husband and I were in this rock star lifestyle. I haven't dealt with any trauma. I've tried to kill myself. I attempt to, when I got out of the hospital, the doctor told me, you've had 30 some years of abuse, and you haven't dealt with it. And, there's going to be this long road ahead of you. And you really need to start, dealing with it because literally it was just, shoved down. And so when I got out of the hospital, I talked to my husband and we agreed that I should tell my parents because I had never told my parents. Wow. So I told my parents, and that did not go over well. When I first told my father, he was like almost in tears, and he's like, "If I had known, I would have stopped. I would have stopped it." And I was like, I know you would have. Like, no person really truly wishes, that kind of thing to happen. And it was all done in secret and hiding, so it's not like it was, done out in the open. But my mother was not so receptive to the idea. And a few months later, I received a 7-page letter. And she had written out everything bad, everything wrong that she saw with me. And at the end, she wrote, "This is your goodbye letter. Don't ever come home. Don't ever write. Don't ever talk to us again." And she didn't mention the abuse. She mentioned everything else except for that. She didn't say, "I'm doing it because you told me." She just wrote this 7-page letter. And to make things worse, we were about to move. So she made a copy of the letter and she mailed it to the new house just to make sure that I got the letter. So I actually got the letter twice. I still haven't talked to her since then. It's been 10, I think 10, almost 11 years. And so after that, that obviously, set me back a little ways too. At about this point, the economy here in the US is starting to crash. So I'm looking for other ways to make money. I had bought a salon, and then I bought a ladies' fitness franchise because there was this, the thing that was missing, I mentioned earlier, was this underlying desire to help women. So I had bought this salon, that failed. I bought this gym, that failed. And then I started the Mary Kay business, which I absolutely fell in love with. I fell in love with the freedom and flexibility it had, because even when we had the big construction and real estate company, there was no freedom. I mean, we had so many contractors, so many employees, so many contracts. We couldn't go away for more than a few days without things, literally falling apart. And we weren't as good back then about delegating. So we didn't know what we know now. And so it just really trapped us there. So I fell in love with the Mary Kay business because, number one, it was empowering women. And that's what was missing, from my life. And I could do, business. I could teach finances. Like I could do the same thing. And I had the freedom and flexibility. I did very well. I became a director, earned my first car within months of starting my business. And I fell in love with the founding principles: God first, family second, and career third. And it was literally the start of my healing journey. That is what started it, because the company, that's what Mary Kay wanted. Mary Kay wanted women to have personal growth and financial success. And she knew the two were connected. So that's how she designed her, whole model. And so that was the start of my healing journey. And I loved it. I did really well. But then I started what I call the roller coaster. I would do really, really well, and then I would crash and burn. And then I would do really, really well, and then I would crash and burn. And by this point, the economy's completely crashed. So we have had to walk away from construction real estate altogether, especially here in Orlando, Florida. The boom was so big. It totally was, devastating here. And so now I'm just doing Mary Kay, but I'm not making as much money as we were. My husband's not making as much, Now I began my spiritual walk. I have a relationship with God. We're praying, we're believing, like I'm doing things I'm supposed to be doing, but nothing's changing. Like now,
I'm sure people listening can relate to that as well.
Yeah, like I'm doing everything, and now the economy's completely crashed. We had to, we lost our $1 million home. All of our cars got repossessed. We started having to sell everything we had just to survive. And at first, it wasn't that big of a deal because we're selling like things of value, crystal, china, paintings, and you're like, whatever, because things never really had me, but to me, I was like thankful I had things of value that I could sell and at least, get hundreds of dollars for them. And so we literally sold everything. But then it got to the point where we were having to sell stuff that didn't have value, and we're getting like $50, $20 just to buy food. And I remember one day walking into the kitchen, and actually at this point we had to move into one of our investment homes that we had bought. We had a group of investors, and we lost our big home. We moved into this home. It was actually a really nice home, but it needed to be remodeled, so it had no kitchen. So all we had was a refrigerator. And during the 3 years that we lived there, we cooked in a rice cooker, and we cooked on a little grill top and a George Foreman grill. That's what we cooked on because we didn't have enough money, to be able to fix this kitchen up. So I walked into this not really a kitchen, and I opened a pantry one day, and there was literally almost no food. I think there was like a can of soup and then some random thing. And I remember like the emotion that just came over me. At this point, we only have 6 kids, but still,
And say how many kids were you up to at this point?
There were only 6 kids, and I'm just like, oh my God, like what did I do? I'm like, people were already telling me, why don't you just go get a job? Why don't you just go get a job? You've got a killer resume, and I had tried to get a job, but all the doors kept closing. And
do you think that was the universe trying to shift you in a different direction? So there's like when you look at
it was God. Yes, it was God for sure. I'm not supposed to have a job, and I tried for like 6 months or a year to get a job, and I finally I heard him say that's not the path for you. You're not supposed to have a job. And so, but people, they don't understand that, right? So I hear all these people in my ear saying it, and now I have no food, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I do? Like, people are right. And so that's when we ended up getting on food stamps. A friend told us about it, and we were like, well, I guess, it's just temporary, we do need to feed our kids, and we obviously qualify because I was literally making no money. So we got on food stamps, and of course, you get into like this vicious cycle with, stuff like that. When you start getting government assistance, you become dependent on it, right? And it enables you So we stayed on longer than we wanted. And so now, I mean, I think we were on it for a couple years. And, the economy is still, we're still not in recovery yet. We're still, it's crashed and burned. But my Mary Kay business is still in this roller coaster. Now we're connected to a church. We're praying. Other people praying for us. We're praying. Like we've sold everything we possibly could. We're living on food stamps. And it just hits me one day. I'm like, I know, like, I actually know what, because the Bible is important to me. I study the Bible and I'm like, this is not, this is not really in the Bible. Like, yes, not everyone can be rich. I don't believe, everyone has their own like financial destiny based on, like what they're here to be. So I'd had enough of like going around this same mountain, and I'd had enough of living on food stamps and all these years and stuff. And so one day, like I said, we were praying at the church praying, like I'm like confessing things, I'm doing mantras, and like nothing is working. And so I've just literally had enough. And I just threw myself on the ground one day and I looked up and I was like, I don't know what you're waiting on to bless me, but this is enough. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm doing everything you asked me to do and nothing is happening. And there was like this pause, and then I heard an audible voice say, Snow, you are not waiting on me. I am waiting on you.
And a proper voice in your head.
Yeah, always. It wasn't the voice in my head. It was the fact that he said I was a problem. That is what shocked me, because I remember like there was no more audible voice, but I remember I went, I'm not the problem. I'm like, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. And then just through like circumstances and this like still small voice and then just things, I started to realize how every thought I had around money was fear-based. Right. And then I did hear the voice again say, that's what's keeping money from you. It's not, it's nothing else. It's the fact that every thought that you have is negative and you don't believe as much as you say you believe. And so that's when I began my journey.
Do you think as well, like I have this belief that when we're going the wrong way and doing the wrong things, that the universe almost closes down on us, like, like follow. So it was almost like the universe was saying to you, shutting all the doors and slamming them in your face because they wanted you to be doing this work that you're now doing. Yeah. So for people listening, if you're experiencing that, like, I've been taught to follow the energy. Like, where are you being led almost?
Exactly. Oh yeah. I absolutely believe that God, there's a saying like for, people that are more churchy, like when God closes a door, he opens a window, right? it's true though. Like there are times that there are times that you do have to push through obstacles. It doesn't mean that everything is going to be easy, but when the something keeps happening over and over again, that's actually part of my story. That's what happened with me and Mary Kay. So I ended up, that's like literally the next thing I'm going to share too. So it's funny you asked it. So I ended up going to two different coaches. I studied the brain a lot in college because I went through PTSD. I knew that cognitive therapy wasn't working for me. I didn't realize, it was because of the trauma, but I just knew. And so I was like seeking alternative forms of therapy, 20 years ago, like before coaching came out, before tapping, like before these things that are a little more mainstream, there was really nothing that existed 20 years ago. So I was studying the brain, and I studied a lot of psychology in college. And so I always loved the brain. And one of the coaches that I did a lot of work under and actually became a master neuroscience coach with, she was a neuro coach. So she did everything based on the brain. And that was very, very life-changing for me. I realized, that my thoughts, create energy, and that, what I think and will literally create results I see in my life because it creates, the core beliefs in us. And so I was able to change instantly my thoughts. Like I would shut them down and I would begin to say what I know is true. For me, like I know God has things to prosper. Like I know, that there's more than enough money to do what I'm purposed to do. And as I began to do that, I literally, within days, I saw my life start changing. Now, I didn't go from bankrupt to six figures overnight. It did take 1 year, but I did do it. And so
and that was just by shifting
how I thought, because your thoughts create emotion, which creates energy, and then creates the results and guides you to do, certain things without you knowing. And basically, most people we're programmed our entire life. And so you're living this life based on whatever's happened to you in your past. whatever programming was put into you based on your life experience, if you've had trauma. And so until you come of whatever age that someone becomes a conscious thinker, you're really just, a product of your life. And yes, your own life choices, but also other things that other people have put into you, because your brain remembers. Yeah, our brains are computers. They remember everything, literally every single word and thing that happens. It processes information through all five senses. So touch, feeling, sound, hear, all of it, right? And it's literally remember everything. And so until you get to that place in your journey where you're a product of your past choices, your past life experiences, everything that's been done to you, said to you your entire life. And that's, kind of scary in one way, but the good news is you get to choose. You get to choose how you think. And so I began that journey of choosing my thoughts and replacing the negative ones with empowering ones. And my life, began to change instantly. And in 1 year, we went from bankrupt living on food stamps to creating six figures. But I created it outside of Mary Kay. And that is where, God kept closing the door. Like, I was doing so much work inside of Mary Kay. I should have been way further along in the journey. I remember people saying to me, like, you should have more results. Like, I should have had more results, but I didn't, because that wasn't the place I was supposed to be. So I had this Mary Kay business. I was doing as much work inside of Mary Kay as I was, but it was creating six figures and then multiple six figures before I ever realized I've got to let go of Mary Kay. And that was really hard because I had a 10-year dream inside Mary Kay, and I loved empowering women. And it was the first place I started my healing journey, and I could do everything. I could teach business. I could teach money. So it seemed perfect for me, but I wasn't getting the results. And that's something I teach people today. If you're not getting the kind of results that you want, there's three things that are possible. Number one, it's your limiting beliefs about money. Number two, you don't have clarity on your purpose, and the universe or God is shutting that down, right? Like, God is people from not realizing their full potential and desire for so many reasons. But those are the three things that keep people stuck. I teach about them. I share about them all the time. I have a new video series about them as well. So it's really, those three things are so important for us.
So someone listening, like, they're listening to your story, they're relating, they feel stuck. The universe is shutting them down. They don't know, what to do or where to go next. They just know what they're doing isn't right. Like, how can they implement those three things to move them forward?
Yeah, so definitely you want to do a mindset check. Like, what are my thoughts around money? Like, when I go to sit down and look at money, look at my bank account, or think about money, what are the first things that are coming up for me? And then the second thing, getting clarity on your purpose. Of course, the money thing, the mindset thing, that I have a new program called Monetize Your Mess. And it's all about helping people. It's all about helping people, clean up the mess and then change their mindset. Because the truth is, no matter what level you're at, if you want to get to a new level, it's going to start with changing what you think is possible for your life and for that new level. And so I go over a lot of that. And I've got have some free gifts as well. I've got 12 steps of cleaning up and monetizing your mess. So if you're in that type of place where you have negative fears or thoughts around money, or you've got a financial mess of some kind, I've got a free resource for that as well. And then the clarity and purpose thing. I also have free resources for everything. I love giving value to people. So that one, I tell people, what I teach is you have to find the intersection of your unique gifts and talents, your personality, your work style, your life experience, and your passion, your heart. So when you find the intersection of those things, that is, what your purpose is. That's how you turn your passion into a profitable business. That is basically your passion, your heart's desire, is there for a reason. And you have gifts and talents, and you have a story for a reason. And for me, it took me a while. I kind of had to do this soul searching. When I started to figure out things weren't going well in Mary Kay, I very clearly heard the voice say, find what you love so much about Mary Kay, like the deeper meaning. Because at first I used to think it was, the fancy cars and the diamonds and trips, because I love all that stuff, and I thought it was for that. And then after I really did some soul searching and kept asking myself why, like, why this? And I just kept asking myself why enough times till I finally got to the core. And for me, the core was the fact that I could have it all as a mother, that I could have, unlimited earning potential, and I could work smart, not hard, and I could create as much money as I wanted to, but it would be part-time. So I wouldn't have to give up what was important to me, like my values, like God, like my children. I didn't have to be gone from them 40 or 60 hours a week to be able to have an amazing life and be able to have an amazing income. I could literally have it all. And that was the core of what I really, really wanted in a business opportunity and what I wanted other women to have. And that's why I love Mary Kay so much, because not only could I have it myself, I could teach other women how to have it as well. And that was like, that's the intersection of my personality, my heart, my gifts, my talents. Like that's it. That's the core. And that's what we all have to find, is that intersection. Because you have those gifts and talents, you have a story and experience, and you're led to want things, and you have a certain desire for things for a reason. And when you find an intersection, you'll be able to find what you can turn into a profitable business that you love. And so
I love what you said about story, because I totally agree. I think our story is leading us to what we're, like they say, don't they, that, God is preparing you for what you're here to do on the planet, through your story. So, but it's just, so it's looking at those things that we do so naturally, that come naturally to us in our background, that we're now using to go forward to make a difference and to contribute.
Exactly. And so many people, what's awesome about your story too, is that you're the expert in the story. So no one can take that away from you. So when you're like first starting a business, and everyone wants to work with an expert, right? But, especially women, we make decisions based on intuition and feeling, we're not logical like men are. We make decisions totally different. And so women especially want to connect with people on an emotional level, but they also want an expert. And so no one can take away your story. Like no one can take away, even if I didn't have the financial background, that just brings a different element, to it. And it was part of my story. But even if I didn't have the strong financial background, if I just went bankrupt and then built back to six figures, I could teach people how to do that because I did it myself. And so you become the expert in your own story. So it doesn't matter if you don't have the qualifications. It doesn't matter if you don't have the degree, if you don't have the certification. It doesn't matter, because you can teach from your story. And there's always someone that is further behind you on the journey that needs to be pulled forward and that you can teach them with. So it doesn't matter anything else, because you are the expert of your story. And that's where you can look for that place to create more income.
And I think I just want to really touch on that point that you said, because like women and our confidence, that's usually what we struggle with. We think, well, who am I? How can I teach this? And how can I do that? But like you said, you only have to be that 1 or 2 steps ahead of the people that you're coaching and helping. So important.
Yeah. I was just going through this with my daughter. I just helped her develop her own passion profit plan. That's what I call it. I now call it a passion profit plan. And so she has when she was younger, she trained for the Olympics in gymnastics. And when she was a teenager, she started getting into boys, and like she wanted a life. And I mean, she was literally working out 6 days a week. It was like school and gymnastics. That was all she had time for. And so we let her walk away because, I just don't believe you can force someone to do something. And I just let her make her own decision. And so she quit that. And then she started a Mary Kay business just like I did. And she loved it. But there was still this kind of missing thing for her. And so she and I developed this new business for her. She's the beauty fitness queen. And she helps women with both the beauty and the fitness aspect of it. And when she first started her business, she kind of got stuck. Like she was super excited. We developed this whole plan. She was like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. It's authentic. I love it. It's like everything I want to do. And she was so excited. And she hit this wall when she first got started. She actually got a client right away, because that's the other thing, that when you are in your purpose and your passion, the clients will show up almost like magic. It seems, it's not magic, but it literally almost seems, magic, but it's because you are aligned with purpose. And so she even had a client and she began second guessing herself, because she's like, I don't have a fitness this, I don't have a, this. But what she did have is her own story. She had 2 kids and she gained some weight. She stopped taking care of herself. She stopped taking care, even doing the beauty stuff. She had gained like 30 pounds and she wasn't who she knew she was. And about 4 or 5 months ago, she just realized, this is not who I am. I don't feel good about myself anymore. It's not that, weight matters, but she knew it wasn't who she really was on the inside. She saw herself as someone different. So she did the work and she lost 30 pounds. She started taking care of herself again. And she did it with the skills that she had from her own journey of being, a gymnast. She already knew, all of this stuff. And then she took her passion for beauty as well and makeup. And that's where the beauty and fitness thing came from. And I told her, I said, no one can take your story. You have done the work. You lived a life. You became a mom. You had 2 kids. You gained some weight. You stopped taking care of yourself. And now you're taking care of yourself again. And no one can take that from her.
And I just got incredible like goosebumps and like, you know, a kind of amazing feeling, because imagine if we taught everybody that their, you know, their life story is their purpose. And actually if that ripple effect, because everybody's a little bit further than somebody else, but then the ripple effect would be just incredible across the planet when people get that.
I know. I'm actually writing the New York talent company that signed me a few months ago. I have my first book deal is going to be Monetize Your Mess. And that's going to be, it's like with a big publishing house. That'll be like in September, I think, or something. I'm not exactly sure, because it's kind of like always, you never know with the media, but we're going to turn right around and we're going to write the second book. And it's about that. And it's going to be, it's based on my passion profit plan, but it might be called something else, because we're also starting a TV show. And I'm starting a whole movement called Opting Out. And because here in America, you know, the American dream is go to college, get a job. Like that's the American dream.
So institutionalized.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, 30 years ago in the 80s, women worked really hard to get into the workplace. They wanted the same rights. And here in the United States, they did it. Like they got
so not our path, is it? Because we're the family caregivers.
Exactly. And then they finally realized. So women are actually starting to realize they don't want someone else raising their kids, that they want it all, just like I do. That they want, you know, the career, but they also want to be there for their children. And so I'm starting a movement. It's called Opting Out. We're opting out of the American dream. And so we're doing a show on it where I teach women how to turn that passion into a profitable business. And we're writing a book about it. And that is a key point of it, where the story is what makes you the expert. And you can take that journey and that story, whatever pain you've had, whatever mess, you know, combine that with your unique gifts and talents and do it in a way that feels good to you, because everybody's personality is different. You know, some people will be better working one-on-one. Some people would like to have a group type thing. Some, you know, everybody has a different way of what works best for them. Like, do I want to do, you know, video stuff? Do I want to do, you know, audio? Like everyone has different personality and you can't try to be someone else. And so it's really important in that process to understand your actual strengths and personality so that you create an authentic plan and you're not trying to just copy, because what works for me might not work for you. And so that's what that's all about. So I'm doing a book and a TV show all about this.
Fantastic. And it's just getting people to understand how unique, you know, like there is no one else on the planet like you, you know, and that is the thing that we need to tune into and use to our own, you know, our own good and other people.
Yeah, exactly. I have a client and a friend who's always calling me a unicorn. And finally I told her, I was like, okay, yes, I'm a unicorn, but so are you. I'm like, everyone is a unicorn. Like literally, you know, everyone is unique. Like there's something unique that every single person can do. Like our fingerprints are unique. Our heartbeats are unique. Like, literally, there is no one else on this planet that is like you, and you have something to contribute. And you can do that in a way that, you know, creates an income and an impact. And that's my biggest passion, like you said in the beginning, is helping women do that.
Absolutely. Well, we're totally aligned on our journeys. You know, one of the things I want to do through these interviews is show women that they don't have to conform, that they can break out of the system and actually they can manifest and create a life that is in alignment with themselves, you know. So
Yes. Opting out. We are opting out.
Oh, well, I'll help you spread that message. Don't you worry. I'm with you on that. Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening to Kitty Talks. Be sure to head over to our kittytalks.com website, become a member of our exclusive club, and you'll get free interviews and access to our private Facebook group, exclusive webinars and secret success interviews. See you there.